Today's topic of discussion is Adam and Eve. So I received a DM from a brother. He asked, can you please describe women's nature and women's psychology? So we're going to be discussing some key points in terms of a woman's psychology and a woman's nature. So first point is rib. So for those that are unfamiliar with the story of Adam and Eve, so we've got Christians, we've got Muslims, and we've got other religions. They believe in the story of Adam and Eve. So Adam was effectively the first creation known to the world. So Adam was created, and then after that Eve was created. So Eve was created from the rib of Adam. The reason being is because Adam needed a companion. You understand? Because if he was to just roam the streets by himself, he'd just get bored. So Adam was the first prophet, and then he was also the first creation. And then God, Allah, created Eve from the rib of Adam. You understand? So it's really important to understand that dynamics. So the whole purpose and mission of a woman is to please a man. Now, there's guys who think that, I need to get a woman what she wants, and I need to follow what she does and whatever she says. That's not how God created it. So we've got the hierarchy, right? So we've got God at the top, then we've got Adam, and then we've got Eve. And then after that, children. Does that make sense, guys? So you have to understand the hierarchy. For a relationship to thrive and for a relationship to work, the man has to be in a leadership position. And then when that man is answering to God, then that relationship can function properly because the hierarchy is being followed. Does that make sense, guys? So your goal and objective isn't to try and satisfy a woman, try and make a woman happy as possible, and try and do this and that. That's not what it is. Your goal and objective should be always to please God. Does that make sense, guys? You need to look at what God tells you and what God wants you to do. Yeah. The reason why relationships are breaking down in today's society is because men don't know who to answer to. They're thinking that, we just need to please a woman, a whole 50-50 type stuff with a woman, get her to comply and cooperate with us, and we're going to so-called build a future. That wasn't the intention of how God created it. God created it where man is supposed to be in a leadership position, and then he answers to God. So it's really important. If you don't understand those dynamics, you're never ever going to have a healthy, thriving relationship. That's why you see these red pill clowns, right? They're claiming that we're leaders in our relationship. So you as a leader, who are you answering to? What's the chain of command? Because if you're answering to yourself and your own desires, and you're just fornicating with women, your relationship's going to break down because you're not answering to God. So it's really important. You set the dynamics from the get-go. So next point is forbidden. So there's the forbidden tree, right, which was placed in heaven. Now God had told Adam and Eve, you can do whatever you want, indulge in whatever pleasures that I've given to you, but do not go near that tree. That tree right there is forbidden for you. And guess what? Shaitan was giving them whispers. So the shaitan was the devil, giving them whispers, telling them, go and try that tree, go near that tree. So first, it starts off like this, isn't it? So with zina, right? Zina, God says, do not go anywhere near zina. So the meaning of that is, if you're, for example, in the same proximity as a situation, let me rephrase that. If you're in the proximity of getting close to zina, you need to remove yourself from that. And it's the same when it comes to the story of Adam and Eve. They were getting closer and closer to the forbidden tree, and then what happened was they eventually ate from the tree, both of them, Adam and Eve. So the whole goal and objective in a woman's nature is to try and take you down the wrong pathway. Now, that doesn't make a woman evil and, malicious. It just means that a woman's of the weaker gender. So if she's able to influence you and tell you, oh yeah, let's go down this way, even though you know within yourself that this is the wrong pathway, and you still go down that pathway, guess what? You've failed as a man. Because the whole goal and objective of a man is to guide a woman. Because you're answering to God. But if a woman is, let's say, trying to indulge in fornication, and you're okay with that, that right there is going to create problems. You understand? So it's really important. All areas of life, you as a man, you need to help and guide a woman. So help her improve mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Build in those areas. So then that way there, she doesn't fall victim to the fitna, temptations of society. Because you got, for example, social media, you got all these dirty, low quality women on there objectifying themselves. And then you got men entertaining that. What does that condition a woman? Conditions are, okay, let's continue with this bad behavior because men are following us. And that's what the system wants. The system wants men to follow women, men to comply, men to try and please women, try and satisfy them, and so on. That's what leads to a breakdown in a relationship. So there's that point, and there's also the point of, in women's nature, they will always want what they cannot have. So let's say, right, you got 10 guys in the room. You got 9 guys who want the woman. They say to her, I want a relationship with you. But there's that one guy who hasn't given his attention and validation. And he doesn't want her. And he's told her, look, not interested. Guess what? Who does the woman want? She wants that one guy. Because that guy there is forbidden. Does that make sense, guys? So you guys here need to be like the forbidden tree. Where you've got set standards, you've got set requirements. A woman needs to run through circles and hula hoops to try and lock you down in a relationship. Because if you're easy access, you're just like all these other beta males. The beta males are easy access. They're begging for a relationship. If she was to say, oh yeah, would you like to sleep with me tonight? They'd come running down. They'd be like, please, I'm happy to. But a man of value, a man who's got ethics, got standards, who's got values, it's very difficult to try and seduce that guy. Does that make sense, guys? So these fornicators who are thinking that, oh yeah, we're getting women and so on, they're always going to get low quality women. They're never going to get the best quality women. Reason being is because those guys are still easy access. A woman can just break that guy down through his desires. So she just needs to wear a nice outfit, put on some makeup, and then flirt with him. And then he'll flip in, want to sleep with her. You understand? So then eventually the woman ends up losing respect for that guy. But a guy who is difficult to try and lock down in a relationship, he's got set standards, he's got set principles, he's got set requirements. she ain't going to have no other choice but to respect that guy. So next point is leadership. The reason why things fell apart, so with Adam and Eve, the story right there, is because Adam, he failed in his leadership position. He followed Shaitan's path. Both him and Eve, they followed down the devil's path. And then they ate from the forbidden tree. And then guess what happened? God ended up banishing them. Because Adam failed in his leadership role. If he told Eve, look, we're not going near that tree, and he's staying on that, he's not breaking his principles, then Eve would have stayed in line. You understand? So it's just like in a relationship. If you've got a man and a woman, so both man and a woman in the relationship, if the man is solid and he stays true to himself and he's a strong leader, guess what? A woman's much more likely to follow him. She trusts his judgment. She trusts his character. If a woman is uncertain about a guy and this guy here is indecisive, he's not sure, he's always looking to her, oh, what should I do now? This and that. Woman gets turned off. A woman needs to be guided in life. So you're not forcing a woman. Do you understand? There's a difference between forcing and guiding. Do you understand? So forcing is when you're just literally telling her, look, do this now. But if you guide a woman, you're telling her, look, we're going to be going to this destination. I'd like you to put on a good outfit and we're going to be going there in an hour's time. And she's like, oh, okay. So she's getting ready and then you head off. Now, if she was to turn around and say, oh, you know what? I don't feel well or I don't feel like going. She tells her, look, no problem. I'm still going to go to that destination regardless. So you as a man, you're still doing what you need to be doing in life. What needs to be done. If a woman wants to join you on your journey, then cool. If she doesn't want to join you on the journey, then it's cool as well. You're not all butthurt, you're not all upset. Because certain guys, they get all upset when a woman doesn't want to listen to them. Certain times women are hard-headed. They're quite stubborn. Try to tell them something, they're like, no, don't want to do that. It's like, no worries. Give them no contact. Stop talking to them. Eventually the woman comes around. She's like, oh, okay. Then she's like, oh yeah, please. So it's really important. Develop your leadership skills. Develop your qualities as a man. And then a woman's going to follow you in that pathway. So final point is lesson. That's what God gave to Adam and Eve. Life lessons right there. If you follow Shaitan's path, if you disobey God, you get stripped of all the rewards, of all the benefits. Because that's what it is. God gives us all these benefits. He gives us all these blessings. But us as people, when was the last time we actually showed gratitude towards God? You know, if you're not showing gratitude towards God, do you think a woman's going to show gratitude towards you? Answer is no. In the long term, she's going to eventually despise you. Because you don't show gratitude for the blessings that God's given you. So if God has given you, for example, a righteous spouse, a righteous wife, you should appreciate that. Because not many people have that in the world. Or if you've got a woman who, for example, cooks for you, and she's trying her best to please you, it's always good to show appreciation for that. That's what it is when it comes to mannerism. A lot of guys, they don't have mannerism. They don't have no class. They ain't got no good ethics. You know, a woman can't feel good around that guy. She eventually flipping stops caring about him. She don't give a damn about him. Because the guy, for example, could be starting off as a real nice gentleman. He's got respect, he's got integrity, but then as time goes on, he ends up losing that. That's why the relationship ends up breaking down. It's not the man that she married. That's why certain times women say, you know, I've fallen out of love with this guy. Because this guy started to make me the priority. Now women, they're always going to say, oh yeah, can you please give me more attention? Can we spend some more time together, this and that. But as soon as you start listening to a woman, listening to her words and whatever she's saying for 100%, then you're just going to get misguided. You as a man, you need to always be on your purpose, or spend as much time as possible on that. And then a woman is assisting you on that. So let's say, for example, you're spending time together. If it's done in the correct way, if it's done to please God, then you're going to get rewarded for that. You know, there's several hadiths which mention this. So there's certain hadiths which talk about how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he would feed his wives. He'd spend quality time together. He'd hug his wives and so on. You know, those are all lessons for us to take note of. So just to wrap up, rib. Eve was created from the rib of let me rephrase that. Eve was created from the rib of Adam. It's a woman's job and objective to please you as a man. And your job, your goal and objective is to please God. Does that make sense, guys? You're both trying to please God, but then when a woman is being obedient towards you, by default, that's also pleasing to God. Now, women don't seem to understand this. Women think that they can just get married to a man of value and, you know, get all these benefits and so on. But they don't want to be obedient, they don't want to be submissive, they don't want to be cooperative. How can that guy ever have a relationship with you? If you're not trying to be cooperative, if you're not trying to be submissive, that's not a functioning relationship. He's not able to do his job as a man. So if a man's saying, he wants you to dress modestly, he wants you to wear hijab and modest clothing, and then you're saying, nah, I don't want to do that, I'm okay, this and that, guess what? He's going to stop talking to you. He's going to eventually clock out. Because that's what happens. There's only so much energy you can spend on a person. If they're not trying to get on the same page, if they're not trying to please God, because the facts of the situation is, wearing hijab and wearing modest clothing is an act of worship towards God. It's made mandatory upon all women. Certain women, they think that, I don't need to wear hijab, I don't need to wear modest clothing. Guess what? Your connection is never going to be strong with God. You know, some of this information is going to hurt women. They're going to be like, this guy here, look at him, he doesn't know what he's talking about, this and that. And these same women here, they're thinking that they can get a traditional man. A guy can't be a leader and protector if you don't allow him to. He can't protect you if you don't allow him to be a protector. So if you've got, for example, a Ferrari and it's parked in an expensive area and it's unlocked, do you think guys are not going to go near that? They're going to think, oh yeah, let's go try our luck. Or if it's parked in a poor area or parked in an area with high crime. That's what it is when it comes to a woman's beauty. It needs to be covered appropriately, because that protects you from the fitna that's out there, the corruption that's out there, how men look at you in a dirty, lustful way. But that's what it is. When you try and break this down to some women, some of them understand, some of them don't. The ones that don't, you just disregard them. Don't even bother speaking to these girls for marriage purposes, because they ain't going to be changing anytime soon. So if you look at, for example, with Amir Khan's wife, I ain't even trying to violate, but look at her and how she dresses. How you got all these beta males talking dirt about her. You know, goes back to Gita. He ain't got Gita. So next one after that was forbidden. So you as a man, right, the more you level yourself up, the more you improve as a man, your standards and your ethics and your values are going to go up. Your requirements are going to be going up. From what you expect from a woman in a relationship is going to be going up. So a woman's going to try her best to try and lock you down in a relationship. She's going to try harder, because it's the forbidden tree effect. And the next point after that was leadership. So you as a man, right, you need to become the best possible leader you can be. Constantly improving, day in, day out. Lead a woman at all times in a relationship, in all areas of life. So mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Anytime she needs any advice, anytime she's struggling with something, you as a man need to guide her. Now if a woman doesn't appreciate that and doesn't respect that, just remove yourself from that person. That woman there is no good for you. And then the final point was lesson. So that's what God gave to Adam and Eve. He gave them that lesson. He banished them from heaven onto earth. Sent them to earth. And then obviously you got all the offspring. So we all come from Adam and Eve. But they decided to follow Shaitan's path by eating from the forbidden tree instead of following God's path and God's direction and guidance. So it's really important. All interactions you have in life, any decisions that you make sure that it's pleasing to God. Anything that's displeasing to God, you're going to end up suffering the consequences of that. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.